There is a letter in my coat. It arrived 11 days before Plassey, carried by a man whose name I did not ask and will not remember. The writing is English on the outside, and the translation inside is in a hand I do not recognize, which was the arrangement. I have read it 8 times. I know what it says. I no longer need to read it to know what it says. But I keep it anyway, folded against my chest, because a man who is about to do what I am about to do needs something solid to press against. The letter says what was agreed. That is all it says, in the end. What was agreed. The plain at Plassey is flat. I have looked at it from every angle a commander looks at, ground before a battle. The mango grove to our north, the hunting lodge of the Nawab, the company's position behind the embankment, behind the drainage ditches, behind the distance that Robert Clive has calculated with care. I know Clive, not well, but I know what a man looks like when he has decided how a thing will end before it begins. He had that look in Calcutta. He has it now. Siraj has 50,000 men. The company has 3,000. Anyone looking at this plain, at these numbers, at the sky, at the flags of Bengal massed across the field, would tell you the outcome before the first cannon fires. That is what Siraj believes. That is what his commanders believe. That is what the men under my command believe 50 yards away, waiting for an order that I have not yet given and do not intend to give. Not yet. I have known Siraj ud-Daulah since he was 16 years old. He was Alivardi Khan's grandson, and Alivardi Khan was the Nawab before him, and I served Alivardi with something that resembled loyalty for 20 years, which is not the same as loyalty but is not nothing either. Siraj was a difficult boy. He became a difficult man. There are things I could list about him, about what he asked of people, about the way he held power when it fell to him in April 1756 at the age of 22, about the Calcutta affair, about the men he trusted and why he trusted them, and what happened to the ones he stopped trusting. I will not list them. The record will list them. The record will list everything except what I am thinking now, standing at the edge of the grove, watching the flags on the horizon. I am thinking about what Bengal looks like in 50 years. That is the thought I have come back to, again and again. Since Jagat Seth first spoke to me of the arrangement, since the meetings in Murshidabad that were not official meetings, since Clive's letter arrived folded inside a merchant's bundle. I am not a man who acts without thinking. I am not a man who acts from feeling. I act from calculation, always, the way a general must, the way a man who has survived 3 Nawabs must, the way a man learns to act when he understands that sentiment is a luxury no one in his position can afford. The calculation is this. The Marathas came in 1742. They came and they came and they came, and Alivardi Khan fought them for 6 years. And when I say fought, I mean something that cost 200,000 Bengalis their lives before it was finished. I watched that. I know what it costs when an empire loses its ability to defend itself and other powers learn that it has. I know what it looks like when the centre cannot hold. I know that the question is not whether foreign power enters Bengal. It is which foreign power and on what terms, and whether there is anyone left to negotiate those terms or only fire and flight. The English are not generous. I know this. But the English are not the Marathas, and they are not Siraj. That is the calculation. The first cannon fires at 7 in the morning. It is the Nawab's artillery, French advised, and it is louder than the company's guns by an order I feel in my chest. For a moment, watching the smoke rise from the company's embankment, I think a thought I did not expect. I think they are outnumbered. They may not hold, and if they do not hold, the letter in my coat becomes evidence of something that has a name in every language and ends the same way in all of them. Then the rain comes. It comes fast and hard, the way it comes in Bengal in June, the kind of rain that a man who grew up in this country knows to prepare for. Siraj's ammunition is not covered. The company's ammunition is covered. Clive had tarpaulins laid over his powder before first light, a detail so small that no one records it as the moment the battle turned. But it is the moment the battle turned. The Nawab's artillery goes silent. I do not move. A messenger comes to me at 9. He rides hard across the edge of the field, mud to his knee, and he asks why the left flank has not advanced. This is Siraj's question. This is Siraj looking at his map and looking at the plain and seeing that 3 of his commanders are fighting, and I am not, and asking why. I tell the messenger the ground is difficult. I tell him I am waiting for the right moment. I tell him things that are true in the way that all deflection is true. None of the individual words are false, only the arrangement of them. The messenger rides back. I watch him go. I do not feel what I expected to feel. I expected something heavy, something that would require effort to contain. What I feel instead is very quiet, like a room after a decision has been made and there is nothing left to decide. Like the moment after the letter arrived and I read it for the first time, and the number of possible futures narrowed from many to 1. I stand with my cavalry and my infantry, 17,000 men, and I give no order. The battle lasts 7 hours. I have stood on ground in 7 hours of sun, in the heat that comes after rain in Bengal, watching the Nawab's forces take fire and regroup, and take fire again and begin, slowly, the way armies begin things they cannot admit are beginning, to disintegrate. Mir is dead by noon. Clive's sepoys advance in the afternoon. By 5 in the evening, Siraj ud-Daulah is no longer on the field. He has fled. He fled on a camel, north toward Murshidabad, with a small escort and whatever he could carry. The dispatches will record this. The dispatches will record everything exterior. What they will not record is that when I received the report of his flight, I was standing in the same place I had stood all day, still holding the letter against my chest through the cloth of my coat, and the thing I felt was not triumph. I did not expect that. They bring me the news of his capture 5 days later. He was found by his own men, not by company soldiers. He was in a boat, in disguise, on the Bhagirathi River, trying to reach somewhere that no longer existed in the form he was hoping to reach it. He had with him a woman and 2 or 3 others, and the boat was a boat that belonged to a common carrier. The Nawab of Bengal in a common carrier's boat on the Bhagirathi, 5 days after Plassey. The news comes to me in Murshidabad, where I have already moved, where the business of the transition has already begun, where Jagat Seth is already meeting with Clive's representatives about the terms of the new arrangement, the terms of what was agreed. I read the report. He is in the custody of Mir, my son. I do not send new orders. They tell me he was executed on the 2nd of July. They tell me it was Mir's order, not mine. The record will say this. The record will also say that I was Nawab of Bengal by then, installed 4 days after Plassey on the 29th June 1757, and that a son does not give orders like that without considering what his father would want, and so the record holds 2 truths at once and does not resolve them. I do not resolve them either. Siraj was 24 years old. I knew him when he was 16. I knew his grandfather. I have outlived them both now, and I sit in the Nizamat Palace in Murshidabad, in the rooms where Alawadi Khan sat before his grandson sat, in the seat that I agreed to take, that the letter promised me, that the calculation said was the right outcome for Bengal. I am 63 years old. I have been Nawab for 4 days. The English are very organized. This is the thing you learn when you work with them rather than against them. Not kind. I did not expect kind, not generous. I did not expect generous, but organized. The correspondence, the accounts, the chain of authority from the counting house in Calcutta back to London, back to the directors, back to the crown that sits behind the company like a verdict sits behind a court. They write everything down. They have written down what I agreed to. They have their copy of what was agreed. I have my copy in my coat. It is 3 years later and I am not Nawab. The company has a new preference. The record will say I was deposed because of poor governance, because of failure to meet financial obligations, because of disagreement over the terms of the arrangement. All of this is true in the way the record is always true about the exterior. What the record will not say is what it felt like to sit in the room where the English representative explained the situation, calmly, the way a man explains a contract clause to someone who signed it without reading every line. I had read every line, but a contract means different things to the parties who sign it, and what I understood the letter to say and what Clive understood it to say were not always the same thing. I understood it to say that I would be Nawab of Bengal with the company's support. Clive understood it to say that Bengal would be governed through a Nawab whose name was mine. These are different sentences. I did not see the difference clearly until I was sitting in the room where a man who was 20 years younger than me explained, politely, that the arrangement had changed. I am 71 years old. The year is 1763. They have reinstalled me. The company, finding that the arrangement after me was worse than the arrangement with me, has brought me back. This is the kind of logic that is very clear when you are the company, and very strange when you are the person the logic is being applied to. I am Nawab again, the same title, the same palace, the same chair, not the same Bengal. I have been trying to understand what it is I thought I was doing at Plassey, not the calculation. I know the calculation. The calculation was real, and I still believe the arithmetic was correct as far as arithmetic goes. Siraj would have been deposed by someone else within 5 years, if not by me. The Marathas were still moving. The French were still in the south. Bengal was already the object of something larger than Bengal, and the question was never whether that something larger would arrive, but who would be standing between it and the plane when it did. I thought I would be standing there. I thought that was what the letter meant. I touch the letter sometimes. It is not in my coat anymore. I do not carry it against my chest as I did at Plassey. It sits in a drawer in the Nizamat Palace, in a wooden box with a brass catch, with other documents from that year, from the years of the arrangement, from the correspondence I kept. I do not read it. I know what it says. but I take it out sometimes and hold it. Not to read it, just to hold it. To remember that on the morning of a 23rd of June 1757, standing at the edge of the mango grove, I believed the words in it. I believed what was agreed was what would happen, that the agreement was the thing, that a man who calculates carefully enough can hold the future in his hands the way he holds a document, turn it over, read both sides, and know what it says. Bengal is what Bengal is now. My name is what my name is now. The letter does not explain either of those things. It only says what was agreed. What was agreed? What was agreed? What was agreed? I set it down. There is a question I asked myself in the grove at Plassey, in the hour before the cannon fired, looking at the flags on the horizon. I asked myself whether the men standing under my command, not their generals, not their officers, the men, the ones with families in the villages between Murshidabad and Plassey, the ones who had marched here and eaten here and slept here and were waiting for an order, whether those men would one day understand what I was doing. Not forgive, not thank, understand. I still hold the letter. I still have not sent the answer.